Good evening or good morning, depending on where you're at. I don't even know where to begin with this story. On the caption above, I posted the caption, the information above. This is so crucial. This is it's sad but bittersweet. Now, I'm hoping for those people in the state of Oregon, or at least Harney County, Oregon, and I'm talking to the people in Harney County, Oregon, and the rest of Oregon. If you are watching this live stream, I want you to tag as many people as you can possibly can. I am so... I am mad. I'm really ticked off. I'm ticked off for a lot of reasons, and I'm gonna label them. All right. In order for certain things to happen, there's a thing called divide and conquer. All right. If anybody understands the purpose of divide and conquer, you'll understand what I'm saying tonight, and I can care less who I will piss off today. We men have a tendency of thinking with the little head rather than the big head. This one. We men have a tendency of, if a woman has a tendency of spreading her legs around, we would jump on it, just for the simple fact that, I guess, that men always thinking with the little head rather than the big head. Majority of us, not saying everyone, but a good portion. Now, what I meant today, or earlier on this division, on divide and conquer, but my earlier statement, I'm going to prove to you divide and conquer. And I'm going to prove it to you with refutable facts. All right, we know today I went down for the simple fact for the Hammonds. There is Barbara Berg. And Barbara Berg, and I'm going to call her out, and I don't care less, and whatever she is. And Barbara Berg put 3 people in jail. That's Thomas Robert Lacavera, Jake Ryan, and one more individual that I forgot because of her videos. All right, her videos and her recording and her testimony and her communication with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. All right, these are facts. Now, I don't know her motive, but what we do know is that Barbara Berg connection with Barrick Gold Inc. and Calico Resource. That's a mining corporation. 2 mining corporations owned and controlled by George Soros and Harry Reid of Nevada. And we also have to understand that these criminals will do anything possible to go after certain minerals. But in order for them, for this to happen, for this to play out, is divide and conquer. I mean, you will infiltrate a group, association, or individuals to basically stand up for their constitutional rights. When you see things and you sit back and you watch it play out, like I did today for the Hammonds, it's mind-boggling. Now, I do know for a fact that Barbara Berg works for Barrick Gold Inc. We also know for a fact that she went and picked up Thomas Robert Lacavera in Texas. But what I do also know for a fact is that Barrick Gold Inc. is tied with the Center of Biological Diversity. Barrick Gold Inc. / Calico Resource is tied with the Center of Biological Diversity that are also tied with the corrupt politicians. As I've always stated, for a long time, from the time I came out, Stephen E. Grassi, Boyd Britton, Greg Walden, Harry Reid, Rory Reid, who else is it? Anna J. Brown, Anna Aiken, the Skolowski's brother through Anna Aikens, Sally Amanda Marshall, Ron Wyden, Jeff Merkley, Greg Walden, Earl Blumenauer. Who else is in this? I mean, so you think about what happened and why Steens Mountain is so connected, so heavily connected between Nevada and Oregon is because of Steens Mountain. And if you know anything about geography, just the geographical of Steen's Mountain and how it extends to Wanaka, Nevada, you'll understand how they're going after the minerals in Wanaka and Elk and Nevada, and it's also tied to Steen's Mountain. I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to do a geological survey of what the BLM put out or the maps I've already pulled out. Not just myself, but other people pull this map. Now, this is what's so crazy. This is how they will take the rancher's land. So when an American, when a patriotic American goes out and protects the Hammonds, well, guess who go out there to infiltrate the groups and who are paid for? So you got informants that are paid by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, right? You got informants paid by Center of Biological Diversity to go and infiltrate these movements, to cause division, to destroy the movement and the purpose. Now, there's two more names I'm going to leave out, but there are two women in this movement that I saw today, and now it goes full circle 360 in regards to the division that they caused in Oregon, and purposely. You know what was behind the motive of this? Is that the de facto government would win, the de facto government will take the Hammond's property, and they will profit and laugh straight to the bank. But this is what we do know. We do know during and after the trial, they got new vehicles and they bought new property. All right? This is what we do know for a fact, the unrefutable fact. Now, here we go. Tom Velasquez, I cannot pronounce his name properly. Tom, the Center of Biological Diversity, sued Tom Velasquez. Tom Velasquez is an associate of Stephen E. Grasty. Stephen E. Grasty, okay? Let me repeat that. Tom Velasquez is an associate with Stephen E. Grasty, in which Tom Velasquez gave campaign contributions to Stephen E. Grasty. Matter of fact, even after the campaign contributions, Tom Velasquez was appointed to administer the hospital in Harney County. Now, this is what's crazy. The Center of Biological Diversity with Karen Circling sued Tom Velasquez. And Tom Velasquez is tied with the Center of Biological Diversity in Endangered Species. Let me say that again so they won't be confusing. Tom Velasquez, the gentleman that I put in the captions, works for the Center of Biological Diversity. The Center of Biological Diversity sued Tom Velasquez in his capacity. All right? I'm not saying this. This is a lawsuit that went out. Now, why is this so important? How in the world, if Tom Velasquez worked for the Center of Biological Diversity, gets sued, and then also embedded with Stephen E. Grasty in the endangered species of the sage grouse, in addition, he was appointed to run the hospital in Harney County. This is what I'm saying. I do not want you to take my word for it. Tom Velasquez actually gave campaign contributions to Stephen E. Grasty. The same Stephen E. Grasty that's embedded with Cliff Bentz, in which Stephen E. Grasty, Cliff Bentz, and Tom Velasquez aided and abetted with Kate Brown in the Sage Grouse Executive Order 1518. And if you go to that executive order, it's already downloaded. Tom Velasquez's name is in that Kate Brown's Executive Order 1518. This is how deep the corruption goes. But this is amazing. Now is where this comes all full circle. If you use the women especially that work in the Center of Biological Diversity or work for a law firm that represents Center of Biological Diversity or that represents the government or represents corporations that are tied to the Center of Biological Diversity, the BLM, Department of Fish and Wildlife, or the U.S. Forestry, well, if you infiltrate the movement and you cause division, well, what do? You get chaos. You get tons of chaos because now everybody's calling everybody an informant. But this is what we do know. We do know for a fact that Barbara Bird worked at Barrick Gold Inc. We do know that Barrick Gold Inc. is with George Soros and Harry Reid and Rory Reid and Steve Beverland. There's a lot of names going on here. Okay, now this is what we do know. We also know that Barbara Bird put Thomas Acavera and Jake Ryan in jail because of her testimony and her video and her testimony to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We also do, I do know who she was working with, and I do know who she was targeting. And this person I trusted so much that tears me apart to know when I walked in yesterday at this barbecue party that she would be there next to Barbara Berg, knowing who Barbara Berg was. Not just Barbara Berg, but there's two other individuals that I can't mention, but I'm gonna go after because I now made the connection. I made the entire connection, and they're using the women to infiltrate this movement because it's easy for them to spread their legs, and we don't think with the big head, we think with the small head. And when that happens, you get division because at the end of the day, women love drama, and they do bring drama. Not all women, but guess what? They play. It's a game. It's a chess, and if you understand this chess, you'll understand the dynamics, the severity of how they infiltrated the entire movement, playing both sides, not just one side, both sides. So it's easy to have them pin against each other. And who pays for this? The Center of Biological Diversity, our tax dollars at the expense of the ranchers and the American people and the Native Americans, because they steal the land using the Center of Biological Diversity. Now, this is where I'm going at, because it's kind of funny, not even funny, it's sickening. That the Center of Biological Diversity, Karen Suckling, would sue Tom Lavoy. And all I want you guys to do that is watching this live stream to look up Tom Lavoy and his affiliation with the endangered species between Cliff Bentz and Stephen E. Grassi. And if that connects, then they made a fraudulent lawsuit against the American people. And who paid for that fraudulent lawsuit? You, the taxpayers. Because it's basically Center of Biological Diversity suing Tom Lavoy. I do not want you to take my word for it. I want you to look it up. I want you to read it. Because at the end of the day, who's going to lose their lands is going to be the ranchers, and it's going to be the Native Americans and any American in between. I can care less, because it's not about party affiliation. It's about profiting. It's about them making money at your expense. And at the end of the day, there will be a rancher losing their land, no different than the Native Americans lost their land. And if we can understand that concept of divide and conquer, then we are doomed as a society. And, you know, and I am very, very pissed off, because knowing what I know now, what I saw yesterday and what I saw today, there were a lot of informants. Either that, or there were a lot of haters that caused division, playing both sides. One way, shape, or form, I am telling you right now that there were informants, and that there were freaking informants today in that barbecue part, in the Free the Hammonds, and it was informants yesterday during a barbecue party. And these are facts. And I am not going to here to manipulate, because at the end of the day, I did not make $1 from this freaking movement, and nobody can come to me and tell me that I was in it for the money, because I wasn't. And by the way, if you want to look at the movement, who profited after the movement? Who bought a car and who bought a house? And when you can answer who bought a house, why don't you bring out everything and let's self-disclose all the information? Because I guarantee you, I can self-disclose everything you possibly can ask for. I did not make one money out of this thing. But I guarantee you one thing, I connect the dots. And those that try to play me, like Joe Slider or Gillis Walter, trying to ruin my reputation and put my personal information, you are doomed. You're done. Now I know how you play chess and how you cause a division between me and other individuals that infiltrated when I was doing the research. So Gillis Walter, this message just goes to you too. Now I do know in a full circle that there's a lot of infiltrators, and you're one of them. You, Joe Slider. Because at the end of the day, it was you that put out my personal information. That you put the picture of my daughter. It was you that put out that, what do you call it, my social security and my date of birth to the Patriot community. It was you that caused the division, and it was you. And I know the connection now. Now I know the connection. And all this connection goes back to the Center of Biological Diversity and the corrupt politicians. They're paying these people. And they did it on purpose. When you start a movement, and to those that are ever going to stand up for a rancher or stand up for a Native American or stand up for a cause, know your people, know your informants. And in these 2 days, it solidified everything that I could possibly think of. It solidified it all. So So those that are mad or that are bitter that the Hammonds would show up, I wouldn't expect the Hammonds would show up. Because guess what? The informants run so deep today that it was sickening. It was a cesspool of informants today. A cesspool. And I am saying it. Lazaro Ecenarro is saying it today. It was a cesspool of informants or infiltrators. It was one or the other. And by the way, for those that want to say and want to come after and defend Barbara Berg, why don't you go to Barbara Berg's testimony against Jake Ryan and Thomas Robert Lacavera? Matter of fact, why don't you go look at the exhibits in which Barbara Berg gave the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Matter of fact, go look at her phone logs of the calls that she made to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Do not take my word for it. Look it up, because at the end of the day, the evidence speaks for itself. Remember, when I started talking out, it wasn't about friends. It was about the truth. I honestly thought that the Bundys and the Hammonds and everything that was going on were a bunch of kooks. I said it in the beginning, and I'm saying it now, that I thought that they were a bunch of kooks. But when I saw the evidence and the research started coming out, and I started realizing and putting the connections that they were extremely right, and what they were defending and protecting and standing up for was righteous, was morally right. And to sit here now and put everything and reflect on everything, it's mind-boggling. It's asinine to know how bad the movement was infiltrated. And to the gentlemen out there, to the 3%ers, to the 1%ers, to the oath keepers, be careful in what woman you select to bring into the movement. Because at the end of the day, I understand sometimes the emotions get the best of us. But you know what? If we think with the small head and we don't think with the big head, we're doomed. Our country's doomed. And now the gig is up. And I'm going to put all the names out. I don't care if it's a man or a woman. The gig is up. And by the way, those women that infiltrated, you guys did a hell of a job destroying the movement. You women did an amazing job in causing division and skewing the narrative. But at the end of the day, I realize who you guys worked for. Now today, I realize who you guys work for. Now today, I realize that I was able to make the connection. And I thank you. And for some reason, I thank the man upstairs for me seeing it with my own two eyes on what I saw yesterday and what I saw today. I thank you. And to those ranchers out there, especially to the Hammonds, my heart goes out to you. To the political prisoners like Daryl Thorne. Oh, Daryl Thorne was another one. To Daryl Thorne, to Jake Ryan, to Thomas Robert Cabrera, my heart goes out to you. Dude, gentlemen, I would do anything to try to rectify this. I wish I knew what I know now, so you guys wouldn't be unlawfully incarcerated, and knowing that she was an informant. To Laura, I apologize, extremely apologize when you told me, and I wasn't thinking, because I was so focused on the research that I was just trying to prevent any division. I realized today, and I apologize to you. Today solidified everything I needed to know about this movement and the infiltrators and the traitors within the movement. I can care less about names. I can care less about reputation. I can care less about anyone. Because at the end of the day, I will walk either with Shauna Cox or myself out of this movement. Because you know what? The infiltration is so deep that it's so hard. And all done, majority by women. So, this is what I do know. All right? This is what I do know. Tom the Velasquez was in bed with Stephen E. Grassi. I do know that. Tom the Velasquez was also in bed with Boyd Britton. I do know that. Tom the Velasquez, Stephen E. Grassi, and Boyd Britton are in bed with Barrick Gold Inc. and Calico Resource with Harry Reid and George Soros. I do know that for a fact. I also do know that before Robert Lavoy Finicum was assassinated, there was a letter written by Dugami to move forward with regards to the gold in Vail, Oregon. I also do know that T. Stephen E. Grassi was part of the committees in creating roads with Cliff Bentz, roads to go extract the minerals in Vail, in Vail, Oregon. I do know that for a fact. I also do know that they use the Center of Biological Diversity to steal the land from the ranchers. I do know that for a fact. I also do know for a fact that Tom Vagaske is in bed with the Center of Biological Diversity, the same Center of Biological Diversity with Karen Sunkling, in which he sued Tom Vagaske. Now, how does that make sense? Where is that money going for, and who's paying for that lawsuit? This is how corrupt the system is. And people will sell this country for a nickel. And for reputation and fame. Because at the end of the day, everywhere I went, out of my pocket. Every freaking paperwork that was printed out was out of my pocket. The ink that I paid for to make those prints was out of my pocket. The traveling expense and the gas and the hotels was out of my pocket. In which I paid the trader, Joe Slider, which is what is it? He goes by Joe Slider. He goes by the Milkman. He goes by Gillis Walter. Also in bed with Tammy Hill III, in which he's in bed. And I already know those two, who they're in bed, in which those two parties were also there today with the Hammonds. I do know that for a fact. I didn't want to start any chaos. I didn't want to start any division. But I had a respect. I had a respect of the Hammonds and respect of the Patriot movement and the people that were there. I had to keep my mouth shut. But now, knowing what I do know between Tom Lavoskis and Center of Biological Diversity and how all these criminals play, it's a chess game. They have their own freaking assignments. And these assignments is, okay, well, you start a division over here and you start a division over there. You infiltrate the group and get as much information from the individual. And while you do that, we're gonna destroy their narrative or their reputation. And that's what they try to do. And this is where I went silent for almost 4 months until I stood with Shauna Cox in front of Portland, Oregon. In front of Portland, Oregon, in the Capitol, is when I brought out those documents in regards to WikiLeaks releasing, Chuck Grassi's letters regarding Uranium 1 and all the connection with Greg Walden, Ron White and Jeff Merkley, Greg Walden, and the Uranium 1 and all the other stuff, putting it all together, and how they systematically went after the Hammonds. But the same method they use and going after that, the same method they use against me regarding when I was coming out with the evidence, they tried to destroy me. And they did. And that's okay. Because now today is not about vengeance. Today is about an awakening for the American people to understand the truth behind this movement. Now I'm gonna recap. Barbara Berg is an informant. Barbara Berg put Daryl Thorne, Thomas Robert Lacavera, and Jake Ryan in jail. These are facts. Barbara Berg has a new car after the whole thing here. Barbara Berg worked for Barrick Gold Inc. in Nevada, and she was working with explosives. Where she picked up Thomas Robert Lacavera was an hour away from the FBI, where they practice in explosives. Barbara Berg is also tied through Barrick Gold Inc. in the Center of Biological Diversity. Center of Biological Diversity is tied with Stephen E. Grassi, Anna Akins, the Kolaski brothers, and Cliff Bentz, in which they created the Sage Grouse. Center of Biological Diversity sued Tom Vlasky, and this is the same Tom Lavosky in which Stephen E. Grassi appointed to run the hospital in Harney County. This is the same Tom Lavosky that donated to Stephen E. Grassi. I do not want you to take my word for it. I want you to research it, to find it out. I am only willing to post it. But are you willing to read the facts? Because at the end of the day, and anybody and everyone, I don't care less who, regarding Gillis Walter III and Tammy Hill III, there's one recording. And I said that once before, and now I'm going to say it again. Judge Darby has that recording. When we went down to Baker County, right before the betrayal of Gillis Walter and Tammy Hill III, we were supposed to go over there and take samples, ground samples on Steen Mountains. We were going to get 12 ranchers to extract the soil from the ground and take these and do testing. This is what happens. Before they had to come and target me, they had to come and figure out who else was in the research team. They had to find out who else was helping me research. In that meeting, it was myself, Chris Biles' girlfriend, Laura, McCullen, a gentleman from Baker City, I forgot. We had a meeting, and Judge Darby recorded this meeting. And this meeting cost Laura her job, but most of all, not just her job, but her valedictorian and her career, because of what Gillis Walter, Joe Slider, aka the Milkman, did to Laura and put her life in jeopardy. That's what Gillis Walter, the Milkman, with Tammy Hill III, because in order for this to happen, they had to come find out who else I was working for. And who else, I'm not war for, but who else I was working for, meaning who were the other researchers I was working for. This is how huge it was. So here you got Tammy Hill III and Gillis Walter coming over here, trying to figure out what I was doing, how I was going about. I trusted this man, in which I took a travel trailer because of his living conditions. I took my travel trailer to park it there so he can make a profit while he can use the research that was being done for his benefit for his radio show. And he turned around and backstabbed the entire research crew. He himself, Gillis Walter, a.k.a. the Milkman, a.k.a. Joe Slider, backstabbed the entire movement because he was after the money. He was after his fame, after the reputation he was going to make out of this. And at the end of the day, he destroyed the movement. But he didn't do it by himself because he needed Tammy Hill III. There's two other names I can't mention in that group yet. But this is where I'm going to connect the dots. Now, Barbara Berg is tied through a mutual friend with these two. Now, Barbara Berg had to go on Twitter and talk about me in regards to my case and try to destroy my reputation. But this is the same informant. You see what I mean? This is the same informant that had to go and put Daryl Thorne, Jake Ryan, and Thomas Racavera because of her testimony, her videos, and her phone logs to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And today she was at the Frida Hammond's rally or party. This is how these women are snakes. So, and the other two women that I'm bringing these to are also tied to Tammy Hill III, Gillis Walter, Joe Slider, the Milkman, whatever you want, with Barbara Berg. These two women, one works as a paralegal. I'm not going to mention her name, but for those that know about paralegal and who that can possibly be, I already made that connection today because I not once ever thought that woman would connect with Barbara Berg in my life. This is where I'm going at now, and they're all women, except a couple men, but mostly women. So now we have a connection. So the Center of Biological Diversity puts people to infiltrate movement and cause division. All right, they purposely put people. Also, look at the law firms. Look at the name of the law firms in which respects to the Center of Biological Diversity is embedded with. Matter of fact, look at all the lawyers that the Center of Biological Diversity is embedded with. Matter of fact, look at Stephen E. Grassi, Cliff Bance, and Kate Brown are tied to through the Center of Biological Diversity under the Endangered Species Act. And all you will see is Tom Votloski getting sued by the Center of Biological Diversity. And who is Tom? And I'm going to say it because I got to repeat it. Who is Tom Votloski tied to? Cliff Bance, Stephen E. Grassi, and Kate Brown. And Savosky was through Executive Order 1518 under the Sage Grouse. All right. So now my thing is, was this a fraudulent lawsuit or a legitimate lawsuit? And this lawsuit, did the taxpayers pay for this lawsuit, or did Lavoy pay for this lawsuit? What happened with this lawsuit? At the end of the day, this is what the people in Harney County need to understand. So now that I put the information to those 3%ers, it's time for you gentlemen to make the connection. It's time for you to think with the big head rather than the little head, and either in it for the 3% and what 3% means and what our founding fathers meant and what our father wrote in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Federalist Papers. It's up to you, because at the end of the day, will they sell you out? Will they sell you out as they sold the Hammonds, as they sold out the Bundys, as they sold out the Patriot Movement, as they sold out the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, the Declaration of Independence, or the Constitution of the United States of America? What is more important to you? Who are you dating? Who's bringing money through the Center of Biological Diversity, through law firms, through government compensation, at the expense of the ranchers and the American taxpayers? What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you? Because at the end of the day, in this chess game, somebody will lose. And I have no money in this. I mean, in the sense that I didn't come here for the money. I didn't come here for the fame. I researched because I wanted to know the truth. And God gave me that ability to find the truth. And that's the purpose, Steve. The purpose is about drama. It's about chaos. It's about divide and conquer. All right? That's the whole purpose. It's about divide and conquer. And as long as we continue to be divided, and as long as we do not continue to speak out and stay quiet and not point out the informants, the more they will win. You know what? Regardless if I'm in this movement or not in this movement, if I step aside or I do stay in, at the end of the day, it's up to the patriots within those God-loving Americans that believe in the Constitution, that believe in the ranchers, that believe in the Native Americans, that stand up for what is righteous. It's up to you to speak out and point those criminals out, because that's what they are. Criminals, traitors to the Republic. So there are traitors in this movement, and I just called a couple of them. Tammy Hill III, Gillis Walter, a.k.a. the Milkman, Joe Slider, and Barbara Bird. And those three connections made 4 more connections today. Matter of fact, I opened my eyes when I arrived at the house yesterday. I was blown away. I was like, how in the world is this going to happen? Either they're extremely bigots or two-faced. But I had to keep my mouth quiet today. I had to bite my tongue for out of respect. But I had to bite my tongue. But now knowing that lawsuit between Center of Biological Diversity and Tom Velasquez, it solidifies everything. Everything with the bills HR 4402, with the Senate bill with the S1113, with the bill HB 2838, with the other bill, which is the other House bill, the one with the minerals with Cliff Bentz. It solidifies it, because they would be after the minerals. It says it there on the record, on the freaking record. They passed it. They passed these bills. And they participated in these bills, including the sage grouse bills, because it's the only way they can steal the land from the ranchers and Native Americans. It's the only way under the Endangered Species Act, and use these corrupt judicial politicians and judges and lawyers and lobbyists to steal. But see, when a movement is so divided and becomes divided by certain people, and they're so deeply embedded with lawyers, politicians, Center of Biological Diversity, like Anna Akins, Anna J. Brown, the Solosky brothers, If you understand how deep this goes, you will realize that this is a swamp in which it's no different than Donald J. Trump is fighting in Washington, D.C. The swamp is real in Harney County. It can't be any more real than that. And I can say it. Because I will let the research speak for itself. I will let the evidence speak. I will let the emails, the phone numbers, and everything how they targeted me. And I will say it again, I will continue to say, to Laura, I extremely apologize. And to those Patriot movement, when they targeted me, when I went silent for 4 months, and this can be validated with Shauna Cox and 2 other individuals. With the Cannon family, Jennifer and Robert Cannon, they had to go pick up my travel trailer from Gillis Walter Joe Slide after he backstabbed not just me, but the Patriot movement, the Hammonds and the Bundys. Because what Laura was going to do for Steens Mountain and the ranchers there cost her job, her valedictorian, and her career. Because we were in it. Because we believed in what was right, what was righteous. This is why God put us here. They had to target her because she had the permits already to go down and do the research. She had already a team and the equipment to go to Steens Mountain, which this can be validated with Chris Briles and the recording from Judge Darby. But it couldn't happen. You know why it couldn't happen? Because Gillis Walter and Tammy Hill III blew the whole thing apart. At the same time, Barbara Berg was putting out personal information about me and my daughter in my custody case. And for those that really want to know the truth about my custody case, regards to my case and my daughter in the state of Alaska, I advise you to go to look it up. Chandra Flannery versus Jesus Lazaro Ecenarro. You will see the evidence in which they found the mother of my child substantially neglectful in 5 consecutive years by the Office of Children's Services and was corrupted by a lawyer, which is my former sister-in-law of Marissa K. Flannery. See, they do this. They have to break it up. Because when you're so looking for the truth and you're so close to the truth, they have to destroy your character. They have to destroy your reputation. They have to destroy who you are and put a stigma. So the people out there can say that you're a conspiracy theorist, that you're a nut, that you're a child beater, which all that was fabricated by Barbara Berg. And I don't want you guys to look at it. Go back to Twitter. And by the way, those screenshots on Twitter, there's still people have those screenshots. And today, when I saw Barbara Berg at Free the Hammonds with 4 other individuals that I do know that are informants for a fact,
Flight 269 with service to Anchorage is boarding all.
it solidified the whole damn thing. And now I understand why they had to target me. Because I was bringing out the truth and they couldn't take it. They couldn't take the truth. They couldn't handle it. Because I was destroying the narrative of the Center of Biological Diversity and the corrupt politicians. And who would they send? Barbara Berg, a young lady that works for the law firm, that I won't mention her name, Tammy Hill III, Gillis Walter Joe Slider. That's who they had to send to come and to try to destroy me. But see, they couldn't do that because when I was in hiding for 4 months, I was gathering more evidence to verify, to solidify everything that I was saying. And who did I stand up on Portland? With Shauna Cox. And John Land can validate those documents in which Chuck Grassley, and through WikiLeaks, released the Uranium 1 deal. And that doesn't have to come from me. Those documents were there. Matter of fact, I even had to have, after the whole thing went down with me, Shauna Cox went to Staff Sergeant Moe's house to pick up those documents. Let me say this again. Shauna Cox had to go down and pick up all the entire documents out of Staff Sergeant Moe's house. These documents went, thank God, Shauna Cox had them. but I was betrayed. I don't want you to take my word for it. I was betrayed. And the only person that was able to make this happen was a young lady by the name of Danielle Kimmel. That's Diane Kimmel. And that's Kimmel. She stood up and through a immediate mutual friend called Gillis Slider, Joe Slider, to give those documents to Shauna Cox. He tried to fight for those documents for about a month. And if it wasn't because of Diane Kimmel, Shauna Cox would never have those documents. And to Diane Kimmel, I hope everybody can you know what, say thanks to her. Because she was able to make it happen and give it to Shauna Cox. Do I trust Mo? No. No, not a bit. Hell no. I do not trust Mo. Not one bit. So, and what I mean by Mo, I do not trust Staff Sergeant Mo. No, I do not. So, I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you guys to make the connection. Because now yesterday and today, I realized. Matter of fact, if you really want to know who the informants are, go back to Pete Santilli's live stream yesterday. Go look at the connections. Go look at who the people that were there when Pete Santilli made a live stream yesterday in front of that freaking house on that lawn. I don't want you to take my word for it. All I want you guys, I want the Patriot Movement to do is to go back to Pete Santilli's live stream and find out and look for yourself the people that were in there. I'm not saying all of them were there. I mean, in regards to the informant, that I know the informant. But I'm telling you is there's 4 people in that whole group. To go back and look at that live stream. You will understand it. Because those people on that live stream, I have the emails that connect everything. So, at the end of the day, we got 3 patriots that are unlawfully incarcerated because of the testimony of Barbara Berg and her videos and her phone logs. But we also do know that either the American taxpayers paid for the lawsuit be the Center of Biological Diversity and Tom Velasquez. Now, my thing is to you guys is, how in the world can Tom Velasquez be sued? Or how through the Center of Biological Diversity? How can that be possible? Look, I put a hyperlink on this caption for a reason. I took screenshots for a reason. I downloaded and put it in a PDF file of this lawsuit for a reason. There is a case number there in which it cannot be tainted. But what we do know, Karen Suckling is behind Center of Biological Diversity. And Karen Suckling is in bed with Anna Akins and her sons, the Kolaski brothers. That's what we do know also. So we have to understand how deep this goes. This is extremely deep. But I'm trying to make it as easy and simple as possible. At the end of the day, look at Tom Lavoski, his and associates, meaning Cliff Bentz, Stephen E. Grassi, Tom Savosky, and Kate Brown behind the Executive Order 1518 under the Endangered Species Act. All right? And they falsified lawsuits. We already do know that. We also know that Tom Savosky was appointed by Stephen E. Grassi to work at the hospital. We also do know that Tom Savosky gave campaign contributions to Stephen E. Grassi. Now, this is crazy because this is all fraud. This is racketeering. This is extortion, conflict of interest, fraud upon the court, obstruction of justice. I mean, there is so much evidence here that it's insane. So these are facts. I'm not fabricating this. And matter of fact, I want you to pull up for Kelly Stewart. If you're there listening, because I know you are, Do me a favor. Look up the Executive Order 1518 under the Sage Grouse, Kate Brown, and put it here. Matter of fact, take 2 or 3 screenshots where you'll see Tom Lavoy, Stephen E. Grassi, and Boyd Britton in that bill. Now, Calico Resource is mining in Vail. And we also know that before the assassination of Robert Lavoy Finicum, Dugami gave Vail the go-ahead to extract the gold out of Vail, Oregon. These are facts. In which Andy Bentz is tied to Cliff Bentz, his brother, in which Andy Bentz is the coordinator for these people. This is insane. This is insane. This is. I understand why people don't get it, or it's so hard for them to understand, because it gets so convoluted. I understand that. But if you look at that Senate S1113, HR 4402, you understand those bills, and you go back to the Harney County Comprehensive Plan regards to creating the road to go to Vail for the Barrick Gold Inc. and Calico Resource, you'll understand. And when you understand the people that were out there going against the Bundys and the Hammonds during the beginning of the protest and who was causing division, you will understand. So that's what I'm trying. Right now, I'm trying to bring the division. I'm trying to bring you the informants, the people behind this. The minerals we already know. I'm not worried about the minerals because we already know. The informants, the people, the tie together, and the lawsuits, the falsifying of lawsuits, fabricating lawsuits to steal from the American taxpayers, from you. You are the taxpayers. Executive Order 1518, correct. You are the taxpayer. So when you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you work in Uncle Sam, and when you open that check and you see how much of this they're killing you on taxes, well, you paid for that lawsuit. Senator of Biological Diversity, Karen Suckling, and Tom Lavoy. You paying for that. But they needed people to divide. They need people from the Center of Biological Diversity, from informants from the FBI, and from politicians like Bukist from Dallas. That's how they all come together. That's how they work. It's a network. It's a network of infiltration. So, to the Hammonds, my heart whipped out for everything, for every day you were unlawfully incarcerated. My heart weeps out for you, no different than the Bundys, and for Daryl Thorne, and for freaking Jake Ryan, and for who else is Thomas Robert Lacavera that was there. What I do not understand